Hi, and welcome to the Creative Soul Series. I'm Jennifer Currie, and I want to welcome you today. We are creating a space for creative souls to commit to your creativity, get into action, and get past the blocks that have been holding you back. And I am so happy because today I have with us Leslie Helpert, and she is a musical visual artist and teacher whose versatile work has been formed around the power of the voice and the path of continually coming to voice as a practice. So she's going to talk with us today about the power of your voice and how it connects to creativity. And I'm so excited to talk to you today. Leslie, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your journey. Let's just start this by having you share how you came to doing what you do, and tell us a little bit about what it is that you do with your voice training and the work that you do with people.
I am by trade a composer and performer. So ever since I can remember, I've been in love with sound. And when I was about 4 years old, I remember just feeling this divine connection, singing, lifting my head up to the sky, and pursuing that path of being curious and in awe of the power of sound pretty much since that point. In Because of my love of music, I've learned that there's so many ways to take care of the instrument of the voice. I'm a pianist and a guitarist as well, but the voice has been such a medium for lyricism, communication, expression, writing. And in fact, I find the voice is inherent in everything because it's really a natural resource that allows us to catalyze vibration through our body. So as I continued on my own artistic path, some 15, 20 years ago, I began naturally just sharing my passion for voice by teaching. I think originally it was honestly sort of like a effortless way to make a living as an artist, as I would take sometimes retreats to not perform. But
Mhm.
yeah, and as I began, I really, I was in my young 20s and I wanted to have like a no method because I didn't want to constrain this beautiful listening based modality of being able to support others coming to voice. But that being said, after many years teaching voices, people ages of 8 to 80 from all over the world, I began to see a poetic anatomy, so to speak, of the voice, as well as like the structural scientific anatomy, and how we can work somatically, but also intellectually, scientifically, and in ways very in an earth-based modality,
Mhm.
therapeutically, and on a performative level to really step into the expression of our lives. And I developed a methodology in the process of it, but it's a methodology that's very flexible and is based on really listening to groups and individuals of vocalists and responding to what their voice is expressing.
Wow. So is that modality that you're talking about? Is this you were telling me about therapeutic vocal performance technique, right? Did I say it right? Is that the modality that you're referring to, that you kind of developed along your way of freeing up the voice and helping people connect with that? Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so that's like the most classifiable name for the way that I work with the voice, because it really umbrellas over the idea of the voice as a performative expression, and the voice is something that's really therapeutic, not necessarily only in the traditional ways of like music therapy and its applications, but also there. But additionally, when we are performing, that experience is ultimately therapeutic. The voice, we've utilized it in so many ways as a sort of forward pushing unit. Like I'm using my voice right now to go and express something out of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was saying to you earlier in our previous conversations, um, this is one facet of the voice, and truly, like, any other instrument, as our body is an instrument, our vibration literally can fill up into our resonant space, touch the kind of integrity of our own like heart's center, and we can find pleasure and joy speaking into like the core of ourself, and end up like feeling more grounded and more present using the natural resource of our own sound. So I really like to help support people find that pleasure and find that joy and that tenderness and their full sensorial experience using sound.
I love that. Because, I mean, I'll share this with everybody. You were doing a few little exercises with me before we hopped on here to do the interview. And as we're sitting here, like just having done literally like what it was like 3 minutes or something of just a few vocal exercises, I feel more like rooted and grounded in my center. Like it's a tangible physical sensation that I'm experiencing. And I think this is so interesting because, no matter what kind of creativity, we're talking about the voice, but I feel like this is really relevant, even if you're a visual artist, even if you're a dancer, even if you're doing other things, because it has a lot to do with that authenticity. That's the word that comes up for me. Does that resonate for you, Leslie? Like helping you, when people talk about even in their painting, like finding their voice or finding their creative voice, they say voice, like we use that word. So, yeah, I think I love this correlation, and I love what you're doing. Why do you think, well, actually, what I want to ask you is, how do you feel like we can use the voice to tap into creativity? Could you speak into that a little bit about kind of how you see those dots connecting for people?
Yeah, we could speak about that for like about a year. And I'd be like, water. Yeah, well, it's interesting because even now with studies of like neuroplasticity, neurolinguistics, positive psychology, we recognize that like how we think, and more so like how we can create emotions and like states of being, even more than like thinking alone, we can really like affect and design our reality from this. Like that's sort of the, you know, a metaphysical idea that I think more and more people are recognizing when it comes to how we're taking care of ourselves, what we're making space and time to do. As artists, we might find that like meditating supports our artistry, or we might find that being in nature supports it, or we might find that like dance supports our ability to paint. The
Yeah.
interrelationship between the arts has been going on for so long, but simultaneously the power of sound to affect and help support the creation of a reality has also been going around for a long time. In fact, like Pythagoras, in some of the texts of Pythagoras, there's like a quote from like the year 200. I have it written down somewhere where it was just like basically like, oh, Pythagoras is using sound as medicine and prescribing like vibration as a way for people to feel wellness or feel themselves. So, that's sort of on a larger spectrum, the power of vibration and creating our reality, which is basically what creativity is, right? It's like we're creating a reality, whether it's like a reality on a canvas or it's a reality of a symphony,
Mm-hmm.
a reality of like sharing a thought to a beloved or delivering a PowerPoint presentation at work. Like
Yeah.
we're creating something. So yeah, I really see that the power of vibration in itself is so alchemical. We can break things, we can make things with the power of our words, and our sound as well. And I think on some level, like we all kind of know that, which is why like if we're in public and we start singing at the top of our lungs, like everybody's heads turn. It's super different than if like somebody's screaming. But if somebody just starts to sing and commandeer their power, it's like stuff starts to shift. People are like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
Stop for sound.
People, yeah. And well, and music is just so woven into like, I don't know, I feel like music is like one of the artistic expressions that like really has a universality to it. Like really everybody, like everybody responds to like sound, like you're saying, like music, and it may not be the same kind of music, but there's that, you know, there's a connection. I think most people like have some sort of response and appeal with music of, you know, regardless of what it is, because there's something like really deep and just at the core of all of us, like this sound essence that we all are kind of, I don't know, tapping into. It's this is an exciting topic for me because I feel like the voice is, it's a huge part of like expression of all kind of creativity. And I feel like there's a connection with me personally tapping into my voice and how that's going to reflect out in everything else that I do in the world. Like it feels like it's a part of tapping into our power, tapping into the voice.
Yeah, a little something to kind of think about next time you're at the canvas, because I know that also a lot of people who are tuning in right now are people who love to express themselves through visual art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about it, when I'm composing here at the piano, a lot of times, in fact, I think this is true for many composers, it's very visual, colors, like memories, like putting things together. I always think composing for me is like, because I'm so organized, it's like finding a drawer for all the things that there's no drawer for, you know, like finding a way to just organize it all. And so I use so much visualization when I create sound. I think conversely, like artists, with visual artists, especially like if they start listening, they're using sound to create their image a lot. I think there's a real connection between that. I mean, already like sound and light travel in a lot of the same types of waves. And I don't know, I get really into some fringe stuff lately. Like there's something called mathematics, which is so beautiful. And it's a way to visualize sound by generating frequency in water. And so you start to see the geometric patterns that people like Pythagoras were sort of discovering around shape are so connected. And so like one simple way that we can start to connect is, you know, to bring sound to your strokes. If you're just in your own studio or painting or drawing, to just work with your breath alone is so amazing. Like to create phrases with your movement in that capacity, and to just start connecting your breath and your sound, and without filtering. Like so many of us, all of us, myself included, experience filtering our sound, where we have this sense, and this touches into the creative process in so many ways, where it's like, well, I'm going to show up and I have to be like awake and perfect and amazing and like eternally ovulating and just like in the height of my being. And really the power of the voice is like, where are you distracted, frustrated, challenged? Where is that energy? Because that is the power that we have. That's the power Martin Luther King had when he like drew up all the intensity and he said like, wait a second. And he brought himself present with his voice. And I really feel when we start to connect our creative process to the whole, like the modal, the like kinetic aspect of sound and movement, we can really move beyond the like ego trip that happens when we're sometimes creating and we're like, well, you know, how do I be authentic? And that kind of comes back to this piece you were talking about, authenticity. And that's such an interesting word for me. I think it will be like a word to contemplate for some time. And I'd love to tell you why.
Yeah, please do.
Funny because I'm thinking to like a workshop my partner and I took last summer. It was on like communicative intimacy, which like I'm all about, you know, like let's get deeper. And I remember at one point there was like a female and a male teacher. She was like, authentic, like what's authentic? And because I think I had used that word, and it's an interesting one because I do believe that we're constantly changing. Our voice is constantly changing. Sound itself is a wave, like it's never standing still. I don't know if you've had the experience of like looking at something, even a picture of yourself that you like didn't maybe have the greatest sense of 10 years ago, and you look back and you're like, that was a beautiful photograph. Like our
Yeah.
perspective changes so much. So I think that there are some components I recognized within authenticity. And one is really that self-compassion of kind of seeing
Mm,
our tendencies, like what are our creative tendencies. For me, when I'm starting a new composition, I may have like 3 days of extreme irritation and anxiety and even wanting to quit. And now I know, like through practice, like, hey, that's something I'm going to get through. That perseverance. I think that that's a big
mhm,
part of like, where can we persevere? Like, where can we find that quality inside of ourselves? I think that has a lot to do with authenticity. And then
mhm.
I think also like being brave,
Yeah.
and also recognizing, especially like, I'd have to say for the female voice, like hormonally and cyclically, we are not the same every day. And sometimes our voice, like authentically, is delicious. Like
Yeah.
sometimes we're like, I know this, step aside. And
Mhm.
so to start to have that humility and that tenderness and self-compassion to be like, look, 2 weeks ago I had all this confidence, and today I'm like a little seed, turning back to the earth, and I'm going to make room for all of it, for the pleasure and the pain. And actually, I think it was like John DeMartini, or like one of these brilliant public speakers, who said that like when someone is really on that authentic tip, they make room for pleasure and pain both, because that's part of the deal of believing and knowing your values and being like, these are my values and I'm going here, and there's gonna be grit, and there's gonna be joy and the pain. And so I think authenticity it's malleable.
Oh, definitely. I love that because it's yeah, it's true. Like it's well, authenticity, it's what's true. It's like, and sometimes like you were saying, like the truth is like it's a quieter truth today, or sometimes it's like, we're bolder, we're feeling bravery. And I liked what you were saying about bravery and courage, because I actually think those that you hear a lot of people in the visual. I mean, I think like, somebody that I know that you've connected with, Flora Bowley, she uses that brave intuitive painting. Like that's a word. And you see like bravery, that theme of bravery coming out a lot, because it takes a lot of courage to step into being seen, to like share your work with the world. But I feel like there's a real connection with voice. Like it's something about like, not just about like showing what you're doing, but also being able to somehow communicate what you're all about, who you are, which is so important to the creative journey for, because I think that we need to be able to like, not necessarily like explain in like a long droning on kind of way, but really be holding like our authenticity, like being able to say, yes, this is what I do, and this is what I love to do, and I'm sharing this with you, and I'm open. I'm
Yeah.
willing to like share this with you, which I think is scary. That's actually really scary for for a lot of people. Um,
Yeah, I can really relate to that. Looking back, being so being so excited now, where the like vernacular, the like vocabulary is for women to be able to express their experiences and to kind of like validate, like, this actually isn't fair, or this is, what we're feeling. Like the collective voice of women right now is really exciting to me. And when
mhm,
I think back of like the last 20 years being a solo, often traveling performer, like driving around in my van and playing shows night after night in my earlier years. Um, and I think about like lyrically, even I know like crafting this story of like the masculine and feminine and polarities and the same kind of expression that I'm expressing now, but in like a very hidden Morse code, and like a secret poetry that would remain safe. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of like times in war where certain people had to like hide out. There's been something hidden and kept well secretive, I think, about specifically like the issues that women have to bring to voice now. And I think that there is so much bravery and so much risk and so much like new frontier when it comes to like us actually speaking about things that maybe like science hasn't totally written about yet, but we know it's true because we feel it. And so coming to voice right now, I think, is really about that bravery and that risk and like healing to our relationship to each other, to like the sisterhood of women, and yeah, and our relationship to all, to men, women, and all of community and humanity.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also sounded like the way you were talking about like tuning into our voice and that conversation about authenticity. It almost like what was landing for me was that we can kind of listening to our quality of our voice or paying attention to our voice in a certain day. Like it's actually like a way that we're tuning in to our intuition. Like it's a way that we're listening to our deeper inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Which is really powerful in getting to know ourselves. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more, and then bringing this back around to like the bravery conversation. Why do you think it is, or that people, I mean, public speaking and being able to be heard and say what you feel, and I think this channels right into like also, having your work be visible if you're a visual artist, or getting on stage if you're a performer, or, all these ways that we are, wanting to share, which involves being seen or being heard. Why do you think that is such a big fear for people? Like that's a really common one that I think a lot of people share.
Yes. Well, actually, one thing that when it comes to specifically the voice that I think is so fascinating is like literally our diaphragm. And I have a picture of our diaphragm because I was like, I want to talk about the diaphragm. So I'm sure most of us have seen photographs or drawings of the diaphragm before, but sometimes it's good to get a refresher. So that whole pink area that is basically horizontally dividing our upper and lower body. And when we inhale, our diaphragm contracts, but normally when we think of contraction, at least I know when I do, I think of like something getting smaller and tighter. Don't you kind of think that if I say contract?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So this contraction actually, the diaphragm widens out and makes room for the lungs to expand. So even right now, if we take a slow breath and we keep our shoulders down and we're like, you'll feel your rib cage getting wider right
Mm-hmm.
now. And the diaphragm is pressing down on our abdominal organs also to make room. But interestingly, the diaphragm, so they say, has no nerve endings. So we literally can't feel this sensation of like bringing in our energy or our breath in this part of our body, but it's so instrumental as well to our nervous system. Even like the whole like autonomic nervous system is really affected by our breath. And a lot of people, right, we end up like breathing in an upper respiratory kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of our body ends up being tight as a result. But how this connects to like why we would get scared to communicate. Interestingly enough, the function of the exhalation, the diaphragm kind of domes upward. I think of it like an octopus or something with like a curved top. So when we're inhaling, ideally it's extending,
Mm-hmm.
engaging outward, and then when we exhale, we can't even feel it, but it's like a little like cloth napkin being lifted by its center. And so what happens is that we have, I think, a lot of us, when we speak, we have this sensation of like leaving our body. Our exhalation leaves, and it's very naturally disassociative. So if we can start to learn to literally stay in our lower bodies, whether it's like just continuing to feel, your hips, and to feel where your breath is accessing your lower body, that we can start to, instead of thinking we're pushing the voice out, use an area that in my methodology I call the vocal body, which is actually like an arm's length around us, where we end up, instead of thinking I'm giving my energy away when I communicate, I actually can feel that I'm bringing in energy from my vocal body and centering myself using kind of like a centripetal force and bringing my power in instead of letting it go. But so I think like physiologically, there's a lot of that sense of like giving ourselves away when we talk.
Ah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because and then we feel fearful because there's like actually a loss of grounding when we're in that, like if we're kind of in that unconscious way of speaking. Is that what am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we feel ungrounded when we do that, but that you're helping us get more grounded in our bodies. Like the work you do is helping us get more like grounded in those lower chakras and some of the others. It's interesting that because we've had other speakers that are going to be or have already spoken about this being so important for creatives to like get grounded, because our natural tendency is, creative souls have a tendency to be more like up here, like in that sort of dreamy place where we're imagining things and we're like, this is where all the like downloads are kind of coming from, like, however you think of this. But so we're kind of tuned in, but when we want to like bring it into full expression here, through our work, learning how to get more grounded into that lower part of our body, it's really powerful.
Yeah, and when it comes to the voice, like most of us, even myself, like there have been years where I've performed like 300 nights or something, and I'm pretty much like comfortable being thrown up onto a stage to perform. But there are certain things that I might be less comfortable to do. But that being said, even for someone like me who's like relatively comfortable to use my voice, there's still like times where it engages or clenches or needs to be warmed up. So most of us, because the mind, we'll call it, is part of our instrument, just like it's part of our instrument if we're painting. Like our mind is a facet of the creative power. I think that we end up giving the mind like 99% real estate instead of realizing it's a functioning tool. It's sort of like the maintenance goddess on a spaceship, and it's like it knows how everything works, if something's broken, like how to repair it. But it's not like the ultimate organizational intelligence of the universe. It's a functioning tool. So I can make up a story where I'm like, yeah, I actually really suck. I don't deserve to, show my work or speak about this because I haven't prepared, I haven't practiced, I haven't warmed up my voice. I haven't taken like what I call vocal hygiene. Like in my mind, 100 years, it'll be as normal as like brushing teeth. It's like, oh, I have all this tension in my body from this interaction with this guy that I didn't say my truth to. So now I'm going to go,
Yeah.
Carry it on. And I think that actually is a really cool practice to start safely doing, is like when we notice anxiety, use the voice. We use all these other interesting tools. So, but that being said, it would make sense that the mind and the identity of self would creep into our creative practice, whether it's the voice of our painting, the voice of our dancing, the voice of our singing, or the voice of our like being a brain surgeon and just being like, wow, I'm not up to do this, or a bunch of no's might come up. Because there's a practice and a process of finessing, refining, and feeling. And to me, that's why the voice is such like a mothership for creativity, because it's a way we can learn to literally feel. Like if we like consciously went on like half speed right now, we could start to feel like our whole tongue and what I call the command center inside the mouth. And we could actually start to feel more and more present through using our sound. And I think that ends up translating into dance and into visuals. And that's why they've all gone hand in hand for so long.
Yeah. This is like really inspiring to me because, I just feel like it's using the voice is like almost, it feels like a path to really centering and tapping into your power. Like there is like, I mean, because even this place of the body that you're talking about where the diaphragm actually is, when you were giving us that illustration, that's the third chakra. That's the solar plexus chakra, which is all about self-esteem and power. And we also feel fear there, which is kind of interesting. I just was thinking about that when you were giving that illustration. That's kind of interesting, like giving this some attention through the voice work. It's really like, I don't know if that's making sense to you, what I'm saying, but yeah.
You just brought that correlation up, and it actually brings me to think about too, like I'm studying whales a lot right now for a project around the algorithms of whale sounds, and learning that they use sound on such a physical level. It's literally their technology. Like we have our smartphones and our tablets, and I mean, they're very much down here in comparison to the level of technology that marine animals have embodied. But by optimizing their regulatory systems, particularly whales, through sound and rhythm, have created like incredibly complex biopsychosocial systems using the power of sound. They literally capture their prey through like sound barricades. They create sound so powerful that it like truly brings in their prey. And I mean, that's the thing, is like you said, sound and power, like our power. And to me, like our voice is our power,
Mm-hmm.
and our breath is kind of like our energy. And it makes so much sense that our sound comes out on an exhalation. And we really have to create a relationship, negotiate a relationship with our environment so that we can stay present in the power of our voice. And we're going to mess up like again and again. Like that's the whole craft of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the craft of failing upwards or something.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I want to give you a little time because I mean, you were so generous to share some of your techniques. Do you want to like walk us through some sort of process so we can actually like experience this? Because I think it's I mean, it's really fun to talk about this, but I think it's also like super exciting when you actually get to experience like just the shift, these shifts that can happen when you're doing stuff with your voice. So
yeah, I have
yeah.
a bunch of ideas in mind, and I guess I can go with something, but I do have like one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that either yourself or like your listeners, if they could like snap their fingers and work on one specific quality of their creativity or like literal physical aspect of their voice, or what do you think that might be? Like, could it be projection? Could it be feeling comfortable to hear the sound of their voice? Or
Actually, I think that like that, what was coming to me, I was, that feeling comfortable in our own skin that I think, correlates to like getting braver about being seen and being heard and like being more visible. But like, I don't know how you would word that, but whatever you think would like kind of help us like kind of, connect with that center, connect with that power center so that we're sort of feeling like anchored in there.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
use our voice to like root down and feel our presence on the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I will say that I don't think there are any like 1 second, like, instantaneously transformative vocal things. But, actually, I will say that I do think there are, but I don't know if I'm going to give you like a 1 second, like after this, you're going to always feel your voice in your body. I think that all these practices, when we start to employ them regularly or to bring them into our daily life, we'll start to kind of have our own experiences with them. But one thing I think is really nice, and we can do this sitting down, or if you're at home listening and you want to stand up, you totally can too. In fact, maybe I'll just, for the sake of it, stand up in case somebody wants to stand up while they're doing it.
Yeah.
And so I incorporate this kind of thing when I do yoga. I mean, I've been teaching yoga for a long time too. I don't actively teach now because I more so teach voice, but there's so much yoga in this work. So let's say we're like with our arms up here and our legs kind of hip width apart. And let's say we've been on our canvas all day. We're just taking a step back and we're like looking at our work. And we're first, like, I think it's really nice to open the armpit area, because I think in the voice body, sorry, my arm got stuck by the window.
I know I don't have a lot of space here. I'm gonna try to wing it here with you.
Yeah, I'm in the ideal place where, like, the artist has like this miles of room around her. But on our physical body, we actually have a bunch of pellets, I call them, and other mouths. And I think of the armpits as kind of like extra mouths, as well as what I call the back mouth in the back. If you take your mouth and you just like your finger and you trace your mouth to the back, I think here is like another place to think about being open. So sometimes it's not even about like, how do I get down here? It's like, why am I not down there? Well, maybe all this stuff. Another thing is like keeping a lot of space between the shoulders and the ears. The way that the vocal instrument is set up, though it's very movable, interestingly, we want to keep a lot of space between here and here, between our shoulders and our ears. And additionally, between the armpits and the hips, there's another place of lengthening. So we're kind of lengthening here while we're dropping here. So what we're kind of effectually doing is letting the rib cage lift up from underneath the solar plexus. I kind of call this like a lighthouse. And this makes sense because when we're really diaphragmatically breathing, naturally our rib cage is going to kind of lift up and expand. And so if we're standing or sitting, we can take our hands, and it's like a super supportive, like I feel like very supported when I put my hands on my rib cage. I don't know about you. For me, for the female body especially, it's like a really delicate, sensitive, and creative space. It's like, housing our heart and our power source. So as we inhale, we're going to get wider, right? So we want to keep the shoulders kind of down, and you'll notice my rib cage is widening here as I inhale through my mouth. And for me, I like to start with kind of like that ujjayi breath, the kind you can hear a bit when you inhale, and I just let my rib cage get wider and more narrow first. So I warm up here a few times. I hold it. I think of the inhale like a happy yawn, like I'm on Broadway and going, wow. And then or sometimes I like call it the a gift for me, like you get a gift and you have to pretend you like it, which is like the most selfish name to call a breath. But it's like, oh, wow, thanks. And then kind of relaxing and then exhaling and noticing your rib cage narrow. And just holding yourself here and inhaling and getting your thumbs right on the muscles around the spine is so supportive, and just really feeling your own support here, keeping the bottoms of the feet open, even really engaging the quadriceps and slightly engaging the glutes a bit. So once all that's done, you can kind of like bring your arms up, and we can use this sound. We're gonna use a consonant vowel combination. The V is like a V, 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 R. Like a car sound.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can make it for us, Jennifer.
Oh, so I'm just going to make that. Is that right? Did I do it right? Okay.
And
are we doing this with our arms raised?
Oh, well, I won't make you keep your arms raised for too long, but the idea is to kind of think that sound is like a vacuuming wash, and anything we don't want to hold on to, we're literally letting go, releasing down. And I heard this not long ago, and I love this visualization. We're releasing to envision like a red molten center, or like the hot molten center of the earth that's just hungry to recycle any energy that we don't need and reconstitute it for something more purposeful. So this is a nice way to kind of let go of anything we feel is we're holding on to anyway, and rooting down. So we'll kind of be like this. And once we get to like the solar plexus down, we can think of vra. Okay. And so you kind of make a sound like this, right? And when you have room, and one of the things to feel or to work on feeling is what I call musculating. That means, and I'm going to sit back down. The thing is that if you look at, again, I'm going to call on like marine animals like fish in water, they have a viscosity around them. So they're able to feel their body, I believe, pretty easily because they have that relationship of water, and they're gliding pretty like embodied in schools and in this incredible choreography. But we're in the ether, and we sometimes can feel like the air is really heavy and it's like I can't even walk up the stairs. Or sometimes we could be like, wow, I just got the best news, and feel really light on our feet. So one of the things when we're working on really wanting to get into our body is to negotiate a relationship of resistance with the space around us. So even if you right now bring your hands up and you press down really slowly while you go, you're gonna feel your abdominal area there. No?
Yeah. I do. Yeah.
And one of the things we can work on with our voice is using like a real even release. And you can play with like sounds that feel more true to your lower body. You might want to even play with like a high voice to a low voice. And this is just like one small exercise that I'm not starting at the beginning. The template of my teaching is very like macro, micro, and works with kind of everybody where they are, whether they're public speakers or musical performers or people wanting to remedy a physical illness, these kind of things.
Yeah. Well, I love that because, I mean, you described this type of work, and I think of it this way, like a sound bath, like we're sort of like bathing in this, I don't know, like that sort of image was like really a good one for me. So I'm just sharing it, like thinking of the sound kind of cascading down into the earth. And there's something like just even doing that little bit that we just did right now, like I do feel different. So I hope everybody will give this a try and maybe even do it a little bit more. Like, you know, you can replay the video, or you can, you know, get the exercise down and like keep trying it, because it's very simple and really powerful. That's my experience of it. Just what you just shared was like really beautiful. Like I feel different just doing it a couple of times that we did.
I want to say that I understand, like, even for me, it's a super edge. I've been like a, you know, underground indie performer, not really like self-branding type of person in my life. So it's already edgy. For me to be like, okay, here's the noises I do. You know, it's on
Yeah.
like fun. I love doing this work. We get really deep. It feels very like mystical to explore sound, but I can understand, especially when people don't, in my experience, when we don't know a performer. I think this is why it's so easy to criticize performers. So we can be like, look at her on stage, you know, but when we get to know somebody and we feel more comfortable, I think our judgments can fall away. So I understand if seeing work like this, or even thinking about trying voice work on, might be really edgy for some people. Um, and that being said, I just encourage everybody out there, in your own way and in your own time, to just explore more things. Like sighing and humming are so good. And we know that even like, you know, the whole like cause and effect question these days in the world of medicine is really up. Like, does depression cause disease, or does disease cause depression? Like, we're really looking at these relationships, and we know that you know, when people are really happy, it's even like a phrase like, there was a song in her step. And I think that we can actually create our joy through trying on the emotion of singing. And that's something I've really been exploring lately. It's like, what's it like the next time we're irked because someone like took our parking spot, or someone was really mean to somebody else, to go off on your own and to let yourself release that through sound. What might that look like? Because sometimes I think we are looking for like I don't want to have this anxiety. I want to release this and I don't know how. And, you know, I know that I've been there before, and it's, to me, incredible the kind of power that listening to our own voice and just letting it be, and using it as a kind of listening light for ourselves can be.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, beautifully said. And yeah, it's so powerful. I would love to give you a minute to tell everybody about your gift that you're offering. and give everybody an opportunity to connect with you and your beautiful work. So,
well, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, so for many years, I've been coaching individuals and groups, everyone from high security prisoners to high functioning, high level executives. And it doesn't matter if you're someone who's a total voice novice or somebody who's performing like every night of the year. If your interest is literally like in pitch and musical related voice expression, or if it's more about like healing a part of your body using sound, I'm offering individual lessons, something I don't typically do, but I'm calling this step into your voice, step into your life, meaning I don't usually offer one-time lessons. I usually work in packs. This is a voice consultation coaching session, and for the people of the Creative Soul Summit solely, I'm offering it for $100 off of the traditional hourly rate that I currently ask. So instead of $250, it's only $150, and we have a thorough voice consultation and like sort of a prescriptive a takeaway so that you can really start to play and get deep in finding the pleasure of your own voice.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. I have so enjoyed talking to you today, and I hope everybody has, gets a chance to get up and do some stuff with sound and feels really inspired to go and just use your voice and hum and do. I just think it's such a resource that we all have available to us too, like to play with. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I'll see you soon. And just want to say I love you guys and have a beautiful day. All right.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your work in the world and for having me on your lovely summit. Yay.
Oh, thank you, hon. All right. Take care. Bye.